Now, what do I mean by an autoplayer? An autoplayer, it actually could be called an auto referee. It's a way of playing the game either solo or with your buddies and having most of the action generated by the flips of a card. Now, I set this up right here on another screen, and I'm going to be playing Aja. I'm a space marine, and we are going to annihilate this planet's surface. And after we do that, we're going to attack the planet and resolve the conflict that's there. Now, how do we do that? Well, as space marines, we're going to sit in orbit, and if it takes a month, if it takes a year, we're just going to bombard anything that can fight back. And once we've reduced the resistance to 0, then we can attack. But while we're doing that, other things are happening to our ship. And the ship is divided into sections: the command, the core matrix, engineering, naval gunnery. There's a no man's land that most of us don't like to be in, a ready room, and then there's the orbital threat and a place that's called anomalies, things that are happening that we don't fully understand. Now, I generate snafus. In this case, I already have 2 generated. I have a gear check in the ready room. Before we can launch down on the planet, we got to make sure everyone is kitted out. I'm going to have to perform a gear check to make sure everything's ready. Now, that gear check has a critical key of an EE suit and a knack of an EE suit ECM, an A swaggering and a B swaggering. If you're familiar with the rule set of Fundamentals Era 10, if you're familiar with Cutlass, you'll be familiar with this process. And in the autoplayer, we're going to generate these snafu in any time we have to flip a card for unfinished business. And I generate a second one. There's sort of a celestial awe that is inhabiting the general nature of the system, and I can investigate that. Now, before I do an assault on the planet to try to win in the climax, the end game, I have to clear the ready room, naval gunnery, engineering, core matrix, and command. I do not have to clear snafu in no man's land, but those can accumulate over time and create a def mod, a defensive modifier, which will penalize my rolls. The same way, I need to eliminate either all the orbital threat snafus or all the anomaly snafus before I can go down. Right now, the only thing that's holding them up is a gear check, but I'm going to start with card flip on unfinished business and add one more snafu just to show you how you do that. So at the start of the adventure, the players would each generate 1 unfinished business, and I would flip a card for that. 8 suits of 16 cards, and you can see examples of that in the game. That card is going to be an Artifice Martyr, and it's inverted, which means it's a Bane. So if I go down to the very bottom here and I look at Artifice, and I look up the Martyr card and I look up a Bane, I'm going to find that it's a code name of an ulterior motive. Let me grab this little thing here, and I like to use icons that are available in my virtual tabletop no matter which one I use. And code name, core remarks. No, right here, it is a martyr. It is an ulterior motive. So let me grab that first, an ulterior motive, and let me just stick that in here. Instead of calling it snafu, now for roleplay purposes, I can talk about the ulterior motive. Now, the ulterior motive, the core is being sidetracked, recording extraneous data based on proton migration and not solely electric ones and zeros. 1,000 years and the quantum computer is still just hooey. It creates a snafu in the core matrix, that's a part of the vessel. It is complexity 17, critical key of a proxy with the Raffarado. That's a type of swaggering, but it's the hardest to obtain. And it has a knack of the funky reinforced synapses. And I'll just stick right down here this into a tooltip, and the numbers for that are 17 and 11. Close this out. So 17 of complexity and 11 of diagnostics. Those two numbers are, if I can make a roll of an 11, I can reduce the value of this red number, the 17, by a half d8. Now, why do I want to do that? Because normally I have to roll 2d8 and get above this 17 or above. 2d8 to get 11 or above. If I have the critical key of this alien proxy with the Raffarado, of which right now I'm starting level 0 without any proxy, I don't have that. So I'm not going to be able to have this proxy C and be able to roll 3 dice here. Do I have a reinforced synapse R? I don't yet. But if I were to go over to the matrix and try to make a roll here, and I am essentially right now in a segment of the game called Advance the Plot, and I get to pick one of these different areas. But if I try to solve this critical key of this ulterior motive, somebody else is using my core matrix while I'm the excess processing power. While we're sitting here weeks, months, just bombarding the planet, the core matrix of the ship is being used by somebody else. Hackers or just extraneous people that are still aboard. Could be the enemy. They're trying to infiltrate us and shut us down. I would have to roll a 17 on 2 dice in order to eliminate this snafu altogether. That I can't do. Alright? Even if I applied my spirited trait and got the fury for +2, I would have to roll a 15 or a 16 on 2 dice. And looking quickly at that, a dice it's a pretty hard roll. So instead what I could do is I could try to roll the 11, and by rolling the 11 I can continue to nickel and dime reduce the ulterior motive. The other thing about this, the criticality, the other thing about this is the first time I roll that knack and pick up the swaggering of funky reinforced synapses, it's a type of a combat technique, in this case one that's psionic. If I roll that 11 and pick that up, then forever I'm rolling 3 dice for against this 11, trying to solve problems that have interior motives inside the core matrix. So let me try to roll 2 dice for an 11. Do I want to try spirited trait to start with and get the fury? Sure, why not? 2 dice for a 9. See if I make it. Wish I had that roll before, and I did not. Because I failed that roll, I would then go into the next set of the tables. Failing complexity roll? No, I tried to roll the diagnostic roll. Failing the diagnostic roll. And from there, I would flip a card. Try to keep my cards all in one pile. And it's going to be a void. And the void, it's not a bane. So, raise your insanity index by 1 and then continue on character development. So I would go into my character here. I'm just playing a demo character. And I would add 1 to my insanity, trying to find out, it's frustrating me, who's involved with this ulterior motive, who's taking over my matrix. And then I would go and I would check character development. So that's another table. These are all inside of the autoplayer. I can look inside my autoplayer here and see that I would start with unfinished business, and then I would advance the plot, and then I would have character development, campaign development that's generated as well from that. There's also additional material of having a more detailed battle to capture a station or a ship, and there's a Q&D Life Goes On, which is a form of digression tables, and also tables that you run between levels to enhance your character or see what else is happening to you. So, character development. I can go to the rule set itself, or I can just take the digest that I've created here inside of Roll20. And here we go. I have character development. I'm going to flip a card for that. And I have flipped a Bane Commerce card. So if I go down to Commerce and look up the Bane, I'm going to find that. Do I score yourself a 3-day pass? No, it's the Bane. I start off as a Scrown, someone useful who can get commodities outside of the requisition cycle. Move on to being a smuggler, a person who ships war for forage. Each time that you generate these character development, they can enhance and grow. I'm slowly becoming more and more criminal in my nature. I'm trying to write the paths of other troopers following the Primrose path to hell as you try to keep to the straight and narrow. Attempt a difficult task roll. At my level, difficult task roll is 2 dice for a 12. Fail and add a half d8 of wear and tear to the PM cycle. Let's see if I can make that 12. 2 dice. Looking over here. And that 3 is just showing I rolled a 9, then a 6, and a 3. Just showing how my dice rolls are going today, and I'm going to get out of this before I get too much in debt. Now if I rewind and start over instead, if I started this from scratch and said, well, my ulterior motive is in the core matrix, but I'm not really good at that now. Maybe I want to do that later. If I take my character instead and jumped into the ready room, I can find out that in the ready room there's a gear check, and it has EE suit ordnance, or ECM of ordnance, or ECM B of both the swaggering EE suit. And how about this Celestial All down here? The Celestial All, wow, okay, that has a knack. I should say a critical key of Trait Inventive. Now I'm Terran, I am Trait Inventive, and with that Trait Inventive I can roll 3 dice. Now the critical key can apply to either roll the 14 and eliminate the snafu completely, or it can also be used to cover the diagnostics. So 3 dice for a 10. Am I rolling to pick up NPC March Sand Key? I could by trying to roll 2 dice for a 10, but in this case I'm going to roll 3 dice for my trait of Inventive and see if I can make a roll of a 10. 15, I've made the roll. So I reduce this by a half d8, Grand total of 1. Every little bit counts. And then I can do this repeatedly. I can make a second roll when my turn comes around. If I played this with 5 people, I would wait through 4 other players until it gets back to myself. Then I would take my action. All of this can be generated, all the action in the game can be generated by the deck of cards, whether you are within unfinished business, advancing the plot with the different types of combat that could be generated, or different obstacles that can be generated, and also the character development and the campaign. I'm going to leave it there. I don't want to talk forever on this. Examples of us playing this as a group, and I think I even have some solo demos elsewhere. So more later.